make a move and the bunny gets it.
I said, put the bunny back in the box. Why couldn't you put the bunny back in the box?
It's showtime.
Psychically, I'm very well endowed.
I want to know what you're thinking. There are some things you can't hide. I want to know what you're feeling. Tell me what's on your mind.
Hey there, everybody. Made my opening crawl in kind of a hurry and forgot to delete the X-Files thing. That happens from time to time. So what happens, you do everything last second, you know. Anyway, so today I'm going to do my second artist-assisted autopsy, where somebody brings on their character and we introduces them to the world, and we kind of like take them apart and see what makes them tick. Today we got an interesting combination. My good old reliable mod, Mr. Wrangler, also known as Frequency Studios, and he's bringing his friend, an editor, the person who encouraged him to make it into a book in the first place. So I'm gonna have both of them on today. To take this lady Sabrina apart and find out what makes her tick. Anyway, welcome to the studios, Wrangler.
A whole lot of hola. What's going on?
And Wolf Girl. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Howdy, howdy.
Hey, hey. All righty. So let's start with kind of get everything lined up here. Just a second here. Come on. There we go. All right, we'll start with the first cut. Here we go.
Your mic turned off.
Okay. Yeah, I know it mutes like that. It'll play a cut and I'll get behind.
Yeah, there's a little lag happening.
Yeah, yep, sorry about that. Sometimes it happens.
Mine
so yeah, I hear you. So let me back us off a little bit. All right, that's a little better. All right. So basically give me a synopsis of Sabrina. Who is she? Give me just kind of an overview.
All right. Well, she is part of an organization known as the Hunters, and her name is Sabrina Carmen. To give you an idea of her, you got to kind of understand the Hunters first and the world she lives in. She is a cetacean. They live in the second density. Now, everything's made up of energy, even matter. Reality is made of energy. Energy has a spectrum, so too does reality. So there are multiple planes occupying the same space at the same time. and they're known as densities. The most dense
Okay.
plane that we know of is the first density, and that's where the humans live. That's where we would live. The second density, same place, just out of phase. That's where she's from. And cetaceans, they look no different than their first density counterparts, except they all have a secondary pigment. It's on the top of the head, which is usually covered by hair, unless they're bald or shave it. Goes down the back of their neck, behind their shoulders, and down to their back. Many of them, they all think that this is a genetic trait of the cetaceans, not realizing it's happening epigenetically. It's an environmental effect.
Okay.
But anyway,
Gotcha.
I'm gonna like avoid try not to do too much lore digging to get all the reasons for why everything is where it is. Just I'll jump right into it.
Well, we'll just keep it character specific.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So that's pretty good overview. All right. So let's you got anything to add to that, Wolf Girl?
She kicks ass and I love her.
Okay. All right. Good synopsis. All right. So let's go to all right, character history. There we go.
All right. Well, she was born in 1969 in the second density, and the second density's version of the Bronx, pretty much.
Okay.
Now, the society throughout Cetacea, it's run by one guy. He doesn't age. He's been running it for nearly 2,000 years. It's an authoritarian state. And oftentimes when kids are alone in the proctor station, their equivalent of the police, they like to, some of them, they being an authoritarian state, they'll hire some psychopaths for the position. Well, they like to scare kids to make them make sure they grow up knowing to respect the pecking order, how society functions, that you don't mess with proctors. And well, when she was 11 years old, tragedy struck. Her parents died, not part of some conspiracy or anything. It was just a transportation incident. They got in an accident. And while she was there, newly orphaned from the police station, a few of the proctors said, "Hey, kid, let's teach her what's what." And they put her, not knowing what was going on, nor did they care. They strapped her to a table and were pretty much interrogating her, scaring the heck out of her, and even zapping her with some shock sticks on a low level. And one of them got carried away, took one of the horse-mounted proctor's whips, smacked her in the head, hitting, and ended up splitting the skin above her left eyebrow, leaving a scar. Well, anyway, this is when the hunter showed up. Hunter Ralt Vedant Sambo. He was in charge of the hunters, and he found her after this happened, and he took her, and he brought her to a friend of his that actually lived in the area, the only guy he trusted, named Manny, and he ended up becoming her adoptive father.
Okay.
So she grew up training under Vedant with another kid he had saved from a bad situation named Derek. And Vedant actually adopted Derek, who would later become Sabrina's husband. And so she grew up with Manny. He grew up with Vedant, and they trained together growing up. But what happened just haunted her the whole time. And for the most part, she would keep, other than the three men I mentioned, her Poppy, the Hunter Ralt, and Derek. Other than those three, she wouldn't open up to anybody. She always kept things at arm's length. But they discovered quickly that she was physically gifted. She had agility on par with the elves. Yes, there are elves in this world. And she's ambidextrous, and she's very fast. So that made her very good at certain types of martial arts. As hunters, she grew up learning their code, and she learned their craft. Yes, they are actually hunters. They have a lot of woodland skills and everything. But over the years, the organization, they do combat and all that. So detective work, their main thing is they can find just about anybody anywhere.
Kind of like Rangers.
Yeah, kind of like a lot like Rangers. I mean, way back, their organization used to do search and rescue missions in the woods, or protect people traveling through as time went on.
I mean, like
three.
Tolkien's
Huh?
Rangers, like Aragon.
Yeah, but this is in the this is in modern era though. But I mean, their history goes back to 303 AD.
Right.
So she kept everybody at arm's length, but she was very good at what she did. She even kept tabs on the men who originally assaulted her, but she never went to confront them. But she was often still haunted by it. So she became very stoic in front of most people. She did emote a little, but she kept it all under. There was always a lot going on underneath, but she ended up getting quite a reputation and became considered the most dangerous non-superpowered woman on Earth.
Okay.
I mean, to those who know who she is, anyway, she's not exactly celebrity.
At least the second density Earth, right?
Yes, second density.
Right.
But she worked with the hunters, and thing is, the hunters did not get on well with the Uniralt of Cetacea, the guy who's been running it for all these years. They knew they would have an issue eventually. The hunters do have a code that they live by and everything. And back when they actually made a deal with Cone because they saw him taking over their entire realm, and they said, "Look, we'll do jobs for you, so long as you never give us an order that goes against our code. We will not follow it. Is that understood?" And he figured these guys are really useful, so he's like, "Yeah, sure, no problem." Figuring he doesn't age. Over the generations, he'd wear them out and get them to either alter, if not completely abandon the code over time, seeing something outdated. Problem was, the hunters throughout the generations clung to that code like a patriot to the Constitution. It just wasn't happening.
Right.
And so there is a lot of butting heads and tension between them and the Cetacean state, because it's getting to the point where the Uniralt's pushing things pretty far, and he even knew that sooner or later they would not keep going along with them. But anyway, in the early 90s, she went on a hunt to find and, if possible, detain a rogue commando. She's in her early 20s. She's very well trained. Problem is, one of the things about the hunters is there's Cetacean law, spoils of the hunt. When they complete a hunt, they can claim an item.
Okay.
And all the commandos had blades that were made from this metal called Mayim. Although nobody knew where it came from, this stuff was unbreakable.
Okay.
And she wanted that. So she took that job. Now, she's usually very methodical, calculated, everything. And this guy, she tracked him down, but then he was on the move again. And she thought, oh no, I don't want to lose him. And outside from her usual habits, she got a little too eager, and she confronted him, tried to take him on directly. Now, this is a special forces guy. They were equally skilled, even though she was a little faster. He's bigger, stronger, more durable.
Right.
And she got herself into trouble here. And he took a few hits to get in close and just get the upper hand, and he got that upper hand. Now, I forgot to mention something. Let me put a picture of her up real quick.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. As during her training years, she ended up having a bit of a trouble. She was not just dexterously gifted. The girls grew in bigger than expected, and it was a problem for her. Her suit is actually specially made to not give her problems while she's doing her acrobatics. But because, contrary to her build, she's very nimble, and you can see where the problem would be. So she thought she had it pretty well. Her poppy makes all the gear for the hunters. So, they got everything where she can move comfortably, worry-free. Well, when she got into trouble here, it turns out her suit did have a weakness. While she was it turned into a wrestling match, which she could not win. The strain was too much, and the zipper popped. Not
Who'd have thought that?
yeah, not big reveal or anything.
It's like it's popping already, right?
just a little bit. However, she's very conservative in how she dressed, very modest. So on one hand, at that moment, she's now horrified. On the other hand, for the guy, it's very distracting. Now, he was a trained warrior. It was a quick glance, and he ripped his eyes away, putting them right back where they belong real quick. But that split second was all Sabrina needed to land a nasty blow on the side of his neck, hitting the nerve, knocking him out. If she learned something that day, if she keeps going up against dudes like this, she's going to get killed. So she decided she needed to even out the odds and put that speed and precision of hers to good use. So she began to study and extensively train with pressure points and nerve strikes.
Okay.
She's like, if I'm going to take these guys out, I need to know where to hit them and how, because I can't hit as hard as they do. And that has served her very well. But what happened?
No, a woman that can't physically manhandle men. Who'd have thunk it, right?
Well, not this one. She doesn't have any super strength. That's kind of necessary.
Well, that doesn't matter. She's got ovaries. Ovaries are a superpower in modern entertainment. You didn't know that? They can take freaking lightsaber strikes to the abdomen and walk away. I mean, come on.
Oh, I still don't know why they thought that was a good idea. How did that get past editing?
I don't know. It happened twice. Once in the.
You know what? True. Yeah.
It happened twice. So evidently. Well, I mean, same thing happened in the cartoon. Somebody walked away from getting cut in half. So whatever.
Was it Deadpool or something?
No, it was Darth Maul got cut in half.
That's right. He was too angry.
Somehow he was in the cartoon. It's like that dude got cut in half. How's he in it? Oh well, whatever.
The Force, man.
Anyway. It's the Force, man. Anyway, but yeah, I can see. That's one thing that I think guys that write these female characters miss is giving them that vulnerability, giving them that weaker, physical weakness. It makes them more resourceful, and it makes it more interesting. And they get to cheat more, and that's always makes for a more interesting read than some chick being able to kick somebody through a wall or something, But, even
the other thing that messed with her head from that incident, though.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, okay.
The other thing from that incident messed with her head, though, was she was very upset with herself for being foolish, because she was straight up foolish. Yeah, she got the blade. Was it worth the risk? No. But she kept beating herself up until Derek came up and said, listen, it wasn't just luck. Good. All right. You were in combat. Something happened. You didn't let it become a distraction. He did. So it wasn't just luck. It was you being better mentally prepared than your opponent.
And also breasts are a superpower.
Yes, that's why I often refer to them as power-ups.
There you go.
But however, eventually she encounters Haley in an antagonist position. Haley was ruining the Unirald's plans, and she was stationed to detain her and Elizabeth. Now, Haley realized something was up when they first encountered, because Haley's an empath, and she wasn't feeling much from her. She was feeling a little, but not much. And then when Sabrina was utterly destroying all of Haley and Elizabeth's efforts in that confrontation, Haley put two and two together. Only empaths can block empaths. And she realized something. When Sabrina turned on Elizabeth and was about to go for a knockout with a stun gun, she started feeling conflicted because Elizabeth reminded her of who she was before she lost her parents and all that.
Mm-hmm.
And Haley sensed it. And that's when, but it was still very faint. And that's when she realized what's going on. So she darted forward and just touched her and empathically entangled with her. And she got yanked into Sabrina's flashback too. But this opened up Sabrina to something she didn't realize. She is empathic. And she's been in subconsciously in default a blocking mode pretty much her whole life since 11.
Okay, let me clarify here. That sounds more like psychic than empathic. Empathic just means that you can sense emotion.
Right.
You can sense or plant
Haley
emotion.
had no idea what she went through, didn't know her memories or any of that. She just knew how she was feeling. And when she empathically entangled, Haley got pulled through that, that emotional state with her.
Well, see, that's the thing, though. Empathy is an entirely different power set than
correct. Psionics is its own thing, which hasn't even been addressed in any of my writing yet, but it is a thing.
I'm actually surprised, Ethan.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I know.
Well, I'm only making that distinction because I have a powerful empath in my book, and so that's why I'm familiar.
I am an empath, so.
Oh, okay, all right.
Yeah, well, the way empaths work in this universe is they can sense each other's emotions, and often, especially if they don't realize what's going on, it's difficult for them to sort out their emotions from someone else's.
Right.
They can block to prevent others from sensing their emotions, and that includes those mystically trying to sense their emotions.
Oh, okay.
And their empathic senses cannot be shut down by disruption emitters, which can shut down magical use, any kind of energetic use, or in some cases is iffy with psionics. But again, that bridge has not yet been crossed.
Okay.
And the thing is, psychic, a telepath, would hesitate to enter an empath's mind because empaths cannot establish a mental link. They are not psychics. They're not psionic. However, if a telepath does establish a mental link with an empath, then at that point, navigating the link isn't too dissimilar from navigating a lot of empathic links once they've got the hang of what they're doing. And no, they can't go through and read that psychic's mind. The psychic might be in their mind trying to read. No, the empath can't read it back, but what they can do is reach through that link and start playing with their emotions like Play-Doh.
Okay.
That's why psionics are hesitant to link to an empath, because especially if it's intrusive, that empath is likely to go, "Oh, this feels like trauma in the past." Yank, literally tugging at them heartstrings.
Well, my empath at one point has to hold back an army, and he knows somebody near him has a sufficient enough trauma that he takes her trauma and he enhances it and shoots it towards the army, and it like holds them back because they all start reliving their worst traumas.
Wow, that's wild.
Most of my empaths can't project the feelings at someone else.
Right.
They can only sense. I mean, they can project feelings, but the only one.
He couldn't. He had to use her as a source to do it, because he can't like project his own emotions. But if he finds somebody with a sufficient enough source of trauma, then he was able to use that.
That's
basically with her permission to save their lives. She was willing to let him do it. Turned out to be a little bit of a therapeutic for her later. But,
one of my empaths can do something similar. He does something the other empaths can't do.
Yeah.
I mean, there's somewhere that can probably do it, but for the most part, no. And he does it. He can't do it with people, but he can do it with animals. And he can actually get animals to come to his aid or just be friendly or whatever. You know,
Okay.
he does it through his empathic senses, but most empaths can't do that. That's just something he has a knack for.
Right. Gotcha. That's cool. I was just clarifying.
Yep.
I
Oh yeah.
I see what
Well,
you're
I
saying.
love talking magic systems and adjacent stuff like this.
Well, I hate it when somebody has a like it's just magic. It's like, well, how does it work? What kind of system does it have limitations? And it's like, oh no, it's just magic. You know, you can always tell a really sucky writer
I even have a
because they
particular
don't have any.
definition for magic.
Oh, cool. Go ahead.
It's and as soon as I say that, my mind goes blank, and I've rattled it off so many times.
Mm.
Oh yeah, the raising and directing of energy via consciousness to produce a result.
Okay. All right.
Now, most magic that people use, I mean, some people call it mysticism, energetics, whatever, but every sentient being, they're constantly generating and emitting energy at all times.
Yeah.
Connecting consciously with your energetic field. When you do that and you start to understand how to use it, that's when you can start doing all sorts of different stuff. Some people will craft it into spells so they can, you know, instead of doing a whole bunch of concentrating, they can just trigger it with speech. Some people do it, you know, most of the ones that I deal with will fall under mystic. They just do it through intention.
Right.
But then there's a couple of no-nos: sorcery, necromancy, and even divination. That is a no-no.
Oh,
But,
big no-no.
yeah.
Big no-no.
Sorcery is one of the big ones because you're getting your energy source from elsewhere, not yourself.
There's always a price.
It never ends well for the sorceress.
Always there's a price.
Yes. But because it's part of the electromagnetic spectrum of energy, that means it can be short-circuited with disruption emitters, putting out frequencies that cancel that out. Those disruption emitters won't work on gods because their signal's far too intense. But
I think that's a pretty good place to stop with the character history. I don't want you to like spoil anything. But I think we got enough information to keep going.
All right.
If you're ready.
Sure.
All right. So let's start. Let's go with Pulp Noir.
All right.
Okay.
Well, here's something she went through that should pretty much say it all. She dealt with some beings, and there were 6 when she started. It was her. She was actually helping some others in out of a bad spot, and there were 6 of these beings when the fight started. There were 5 left. They were all detained. They're all bound, and she went looking at them. Now these beings, they're nasty. Most people can't even stand being around them, even if they're not mystically sensitive. That's how nasty they are. And Sabrina despised these guys, absolutely despised them. But they were the last of their kind. The 3 major rules for the hunters is you don't kill kids, you do not torture, and absolutely do not commit genocide.
Well, let me go ahead for people at home that don't know the definitions. In my system, I have a dichotomy, a binary, basically. That characters will always fall into one or 2 categories, pulp or noir. And pulp is, they usually have supernatural aspects to them, and they have a definitive moral character. Or laws or rules that they follow. And they will not adhere or stray away from those. That can be, villain or hero, but they'll have a set of laws that they follow, and they will not deviate. Now, noirs, they're extremely human. They have situational ethics, and they will basically, they will all basically by any means necessary, essentially. But they very rarely have like any law or rule that they won't twist or break. And so, and sounds to me like you're saying that she is a pulp character because of the value system.
Yeah. And in this situation, she had the opportunity just to execute them, and she wanted to. But she said they're the last of their kind. They should consider themselves fortunate that genocide is forbidden to hunters, because today I would not be so noble on my own. But she refused to break the code. That's her oath. She wouldn't do it. So she is pulp.
Yeah. All righty. That's confirmed. All righty. So
oh, you're muted.
Now, yep, sorry. Now what that means is when you go to write your character's interactions with other characters, it matters because if they have a definitive moral code, then you know where their parameters are, you know where their barriers are, you know how far they'll go, and it's very valuable when you're interacting with other characters to know, you know, just this far, no further. It gives you a structure for your interactions with other characters, especially if you got multiple characters.
Yes.
And so it's a really good rule of thumb. So she's obviously pulp. All right. So speaking of writing challenges. So what are the writing challenges?
With her being pretty much kind of an aspirational character just in her makeup, I don't want to turn her into a girl boss. Sometimes you gotta show her not looking incompetent, but still disadvantaged in places, and even sometimes having to, you know, forego a victory. Because you have someone who's supposed to be this good, you're like, okay, how can I make her look? How can I present her as not too perfect for anything?
You don't want to go over to Rey Skywalker territory, right?
Yep, she's got to have limitations, and she does. She's found a few of them, but she, yeah.
Well,
also,
there's like
her...
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Well, I'm just saying that you know, that is kind of like a you can have them like too flawed to where they're like Eileen Warnos, you know, they're so flawed that they're no longer compelling, you know, because they're just horrible human beings and or such victims that, you know, you're no longer rooting for them, you know. And so you gotta, when you got that agency, you gotta give them some agency. I really think that I go from like Rey Skywalker is too far girl boss, and I don't know who would be the nadir over here, but
Aquafina.
There you go. Yeah, Aquafina. So in Aquafina and Rey Skywalker
so much because she seems like she's
Ripley.
A nice person.
Yeah, I'd say Ripley is kind of like the perfect medium.
That's a pretty good goal.
Yeah, I always say that if you're going to write a powerful female character, study Ripley and emulate her as close as you can get, and you will have a vulnerable yet powerful female character who can kick butt but still remain a vulnerable female and compelling character.
One of the other writing challenges with her is because she's always kind of putting up a front and trying to be stoic. I don't want to write her like a plank of wood. She has a lot going on under the surface. And it's like, how do I convey hints of her personality without her breaking her game face?
Oh, that's writing a character like that can be a very big challenge. When I find when I'm writing a character like that, how they react to other people is sometimes more than direct action is sometimes a better way of telling their story. You know what I'm saying? It's like how people react to them and how they react to other people as opposed to their direct action. Because if they're stoic, then there's not a lot of emotion or moting going on. But it's like their reaction to other people is really telling. And sometimes it's a way to tell what's going on under the surface without having them just blurt it out. And let's face it, the biggest problem with writing females is the fact that women tend to be very verbal. Would you disagree with that, Wolf Girl?
I'm not one that's very verbal, but I do understand where you're coming from.
What are you talking about? You've told me 10-minute long stories that have gone nowhere.
That's when I'm baked.
Okay, all right.
But I do have a question for Ethan about Sabrina.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
All right. Now, when I was reading through that and stuff like that, and Sabrina got into it with Haley and Elizabeth, you were mentioning earlier that the code for her was not to kill children. But
Right.
Haley and Elizabeth were children, and she was trying to kill them.
No, she was trying to detain them. Remember what she said at the beginning? Please turn yourselves in. There is no need to harm you.
Oh, got it. Okay.
Now, also remember, they're energetically enhanced. Haley and Elizabeth at that point, their strength is almost on par with an adult male because of their enhancements.
Right.
And they were also reaching the point where they were starting to get a little cocky, and they're like, "Yeah, right. We're not turning ourselves in." And now the thing is, remember, she tried to do a quick knockout on Elizabeth.
Yeah.
And it didn't. She just ended up with a small bruise on her head because they were more durable. And she's trying to gauge where is that point where I can knock them out and not do too much damage. So she was like trying to calculate that the entire time as Haley and Elizabeth are throwing blasts at her, and she's trying to dodge them all.
Yeah, when you get into superpowered females, that does get, it does that assessment tends to happen. I've seen it before when people wrote like powerful vampires who were little girls, where they look petite, they look innocent or whatever, but they're actually powerful vampires. That's a thing. But yeah, it's like right to the moment where my friend from last week, Saska, his character Saska is actually Nephilim, and she looks like this petite female, but then she's like starts slugging it out with this guy, and she's like breaking his helmet open and stuff like that, and he's like, "Whoa, what the hell are you?"
I think he's got such a good villain with that character.
Oh, Saska's a chick, man. She is.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's definitely a writing challenge where you're, Wookie Fever. Hey,
where's the
Wookie?
stream?
We're on it right now. Wookie. I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know, man.
Okay,
we're on it right now, so
yeah. I just checked. It's running. It's broadcasting.
Yeah, it's running. It's running. Okay, Wookie, thanks for making us paranoid. Let's continue. I've done shows before where I forgot to hit the start, and I was like 15 minutes in, and then it's like, oh crap, I've done it before. Anyway.
I have too with recording sessions. I forgot to hit record, and I was like, yes, read it perfect, nailed it. I didn't record any of it. Crap.
The funny thing about it is I've always had my best monologues, and I'm like right middle, like I'm just killing this monologue, the opening monologue, and then I'm like, damn, nobody's ever going to hear it,
It is weird
Then
how
I hit
that
like,
happened.
yeah, that everybody's like, I look in the chat and somebody's like, where's your what's going on? Where's your stream? Are you late? I was like, oh crap, So that does happen. Anyway, so yeah, that's the writing challenge. You have to know the power levels. You have to know the capabilities, and you have to like keep everybody within those. And that's where knowing like the systems, intimately, like having a world Bible or something like that, where you've got all this spelled out. I've seen some people use like D&D, roles to like differentiate power levels. So when they interact on the page, they know who's going to be who can handle the, who's the strongest physically, or who's the most biggest energy projector or whatever. But that it takes a lot of planning, especially if you're doing science fiction, like this is obviously. It's like Dune. Brian Herbert had to know just what the Kwisatz Haderach was capable of, and he had to make him powerful but not overpowered, otherwise the whole entire last act would have been boring.
Right.
But he had to know what he was capable of, and otherwise wasn't coming IP. No, my YouTube show the thumbnail, but no stream. I'm in Rumble now. Things are fine here. Okay. I don't even know what he said there.
YouTube isn't showing up. It's not showing up for him on YouTube, but he found it in Rumble.
Wow.
I just double checked on my end. I went over to YouTube tab, and it is live. I refreshed it.
It showed up on mine. Yeah, it showed up on my YouTube too.
Okay. All right. So Wookiee's talking out his ass. Let's just move on. Anyway. Love you, Wookie. Anyway. So that's one thing, especially with science fiction. A lot of people don't write science fiction because of because you really have to have everything technical, at least wise, everything spelled out. You have to have everything designed. You have to have the terms, which are going to be. You obviously have a lot of terms that are not on our density or on our plane. So you have to have new terminology. And so when it comes, that's one really big hurdle for a lot of people writing like hard science fiction, things like that.
Yeah, I had to build the world first and understand the magic and tech systems before I could even start writing the story. I mean, I had these story ideas, but until I sat down and seriously kind of refined and knew exactly how it would all work, I couldn't really do anything, or else I'd just start contradicting myself without knowing it.
Well, I mean, otherwise you'll get you'll get the. Must be your YouTube. Yeah, it must be. Yeah. But otherwise you'll get like anomalies. Like I remember the first what's that guy's name? Remember when they rebooted Star Trek a few years back? And
Abrams.
The guy Abrams, JJ Abrams. But one thing that it's like it showed up several times since, but for some reason he's in love with Beastie Boys Sabotage. For some reason. And here you are, you got this hard science fiction, and suddenly the kid's like, driving a Corvette, I think it's a 60s era Corvette, and then he's playing Sabotage from Beastie Boys, and this is supposed to be way, way off into the future. And it's like, why would anybody know who the frickin' Beastie Boys are in 2020s, whatever that was? I mean, it was supposed to be way off in the future. And it was just so anachronistic. It was just like, it just took me out of it. A bad robot or a bad reboot. Yeah, exactly.
Bad reboot.
But it was sloppy because that, he's not thinking like, okay, what is going to like be carried into the future? What like when Jean-Luc Picard in like the second movie that the Next Generation were in, where they go back in time or whatever.
Yeah.
But he kept like referencing Moby Dick. And so you're thinking, okay, Moby Dick is, kind of a classic that would be like, would carry forward. And so that wasn't anachronistic. But something as ephemeral and is like of its era as Sabotage by the Beastie Boys, that was just like, what?
Yeah. The only one I can see in Star Trek that can actually pull something like that up would be Tom Paris, and that's not his style.
No. But,
he does like 20th century stuff. But.
Yeah, he likes the old serials or whatever. And
the cartoons.
And the cartoons, right.
But that's established. You see him watching that throughout the whole series.
Exactly. I like some things that are obscure, from way back in time, like the story of the 300 Spartans, which would be
that's one of my favorites.
Right. So that's over, a couple thousand years or whatever. So I mean, so that makes sense. You could see that carrying forward or whatever. But when it comes to like coming up with your own science fiction system or writing hard science fiction like that, you really have to like think about living in the world that you're writing to the extent where you've got to like change everything to suit that world. And if you're lazy, like evidently Jar Jar Abrams is, then you're like, oh, you know what'd be cool right here? Sabotage by the Beastie Boys. And it's just like, so I can see definitely where, when you write hard science fiction like that, it's a really huge undertaking to make sure you have the laws spelled out and to make sure you know how your character fits in the world.
It really is.
Capabilities. And so I hats off for you taking that challenge on. But yeah, so thank you for bringing her by. So let's close the door. So what book is Sabrina going to be in?
She first appears in Haley Stark's
Bad
Kitty, and then she's not in it much in the first book, but in book 2, which is Bad Kitty Haley's World, she's almost as much main character as Haley and Elizabeth.
Okay.
I'm currently working on book 3. Like book 1 takes place in 98. Book 2 takes place in January 2000. Book 3 is taking place in 2018. Haley and Elizabeth are all grown up now.
Okay.
But,
so it's the second density. It's like the second density world.
Yeah, no, Haley and Elizabeth are from the first density. Their incidents happen. They do end up on the same side. In fact, going on later, Sabrina becomes Elizabeth's mentor.
Oh, okay. All right.
So
cool.
I might be writing a side thing for Substack eventually on that when she's training Elizabeth and going on her own adventures. Because I think this character, she was completely unintended. I needed something for the story, and it just very quickly it took me by surprise. She came out of this out of nowhere, and then after I've done what I've done with her so far, I'm like, I think she deserves her own solo adventure here. I mean, a surprise character I'd never intended, and she quickly became as much of a favorite as Haley and Elizabeth for me.
Well, it kind of reminds me. It's writing my Dr. John Watson, Police Surgeon, Scotland Yard series, and I was in book 3, and I was trying to think of, because it says in the Sherlock Holmes series that Dr. John Watson had an older brother who was like inherited everything, and so that's why he was kind of like going into the military and things like that, because he was, back then if you're had any kind of landed gentry, the older sibling got everything, automatically, and so the stray thought hit me: what if John Watson was like one of twins? And wouldn't it be really, really sucky to to have a twin that came out like just minutes before you, and looks exactly like you, and got everything, and you were kind of like the spare or whatever, and so I came up with the James Watson, who was a barrister who kind of like became a invertebrate gambler, and was like everything that John was not, but still had John's brilliance, but he was like everything that John was not. He has no loyalty, has no, he's a complete noir, while John's a pulp, and but the weird thing happened was I wrote him to be just completely, utterly just a pain in John's ass, and suddenly I was getting fan feedback because people liked it. His name was Hamish, which is kind of the Scottish version of James, and so people, I was getting like people that liked that character, and
awesome.
And they're like, I'm sorry that you don't like that character, but I love that character. And I was like, do I hate that character? And I was like, no, actually, I don't hate that character. And so I wrote him. So I went writing him a story where he was a redemption arc. We had a redemption arc, but
oh, cool.
But he was supposed to, but that happens when you just like supposed to do a throwaway character, but I just wind up being such a, it just wind up being so fun to write, or so fun to any like a Deadpool was basically a accidental character. It was just Rob Liefeld wanted to do Deathstroke Terminator, and so he created a villain who was basically supposed to die in a one-off comic, and because the guy's Wade Wilson, and Deathstroke is Slade Wilson,
and he had no idea he was creating a monster.
He had no idea. But it was just supposed to be a kind of a one-off, and because Slade Wilson was so like laconic and kind of like serious, he made this guy completely, totally spastic and unserious as he could get him, and it just clicked with people, and suddenly he had a runaway hit on his hands. But just basically creating a character to fill a hole or to like suit the moment. Sometimes you can strike gold. Just writing a character out of necessity. Sometimes you can just absolutely.
And I think I may have done that with Sabrina. And by the way, I forgot to mention it earlier, but
yeah.
I mean, it's never stated in any of the books, but see her whip here?
Yeah.
It's a metallic electrical whip.
Yeah.
I never stated anywhere flat out, but that is her trying to pretty much take what terrorized her and weaponize it against her opponents.
Ah.
That weapon is a coping mechanism in a way.
Keeps her from being a victim. So
That makes sense.
I get it. I get it. I get it. Well, thank you for coming on, Wrangler. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Wolf Girl for hanging out with us. Oh, sure, no problem. It's just going to be a fun series. I really hope it catches on. I really hope people want to bring their characters by the character morgue and see what make them tick. I think it's a real fun exercise. Learn new things, flesh things out. And thank you for being my ride or die mod for showing up and actually, keeping me from being lonely sometimes. Anyway.
Wookie usually shows up too.
But anyway, so that's been, yeah. Well, he doesn't keep me from being lonely. He just annoys the shit out of me. But anyway, kidding. I'm just kidding. So anyway, quick change for Cryptids and Conspiracies on Saturday night. We were just going to do it on the Lusitania, but we have I made a choice because I keep seeing this name pop up. He showed up when we talked about the Titanic. He showed up when we've talked about several things that happened at the turn of the century. And now when we're talking about Lusitania, I just did a quick search, and it turns out he was the president during the Lusitania. And so our changing topic was Woodrow Wilson the most evil president America's ever had? And
I've
the guy created the
IRS.
Yep, he's created the IRS. He created the Federal Reserve. All that came in on him.
I'm gonna have to show up for that show because I honestly don't know as much about him as I should.
Well, the more you know, the more you're gonna be like,
I'd rather
man,
not know.
Yeah, man, I hope that guy's burning in the pits of hell right now. Anyway, just say. All right, well, thank you all for coming, everybody. Thank you for the eyeballs. Thank you for bringing your character by the character morgue. Thank you
so much for having me.
No
it's
problem.
Always fun to talk about her.
Oh, absolutely. We got our babies, Well, we gotta roll them out every once in a while and let people see them. But thank you all for coming, and we will see you next time. Actually, on this channel, we'll see you Saturday night. But next character Autopsy, I've got a couple people that I'm talking to about bringing our characters by, and we're gonna make this a fun thing. And so see you later. Y'all have a very good night. Bye, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you.